Okay, here we are. Game number 1 of the grand finals of the $10,000 Team Arena Challenge. Down here at the bottom right-hand corner, we have the guy who took 3 games off of Cole MVP in the last round. It's Mouse ThorZaIN. He is not Protoss in any way, shape, or form. He is, in fact, Terran. Had the scoreboard mixed up there. He is our red Terran player's opponent in the bottom left-hand corner, hailing from QuanticIM. That is theognis. He is our blue Terran.
So, when does ThorZaIN, when does he take on the Spork moniker? That's what I'm waiting for. I mean, ThorZaIN's shown that he can go from a super passive, drawn-out macro style to an overly aggressive, cheesy, in-your-face bunker rush, whether it be Reapers against Zerg or Marines against Protoss.
Right.
He's certainly reading his opponents very well right now, and he's making active decisions in-game to switch up his play and contour that to his opponent, and it's getting him wins.
Yep, there you go. And it was so smart last time because he's been playing such that standard expand style that correctly, I believe, everyone was like, okay, we're going to quick expand. We're going to try and match him in the macro game. We're not going to build him in those tech advantages that he likes to carry. We're not going to let him pull off his style of play. And then ThorZaIN says, here's a couple of bunkers.
Yeah.
And did you think you had a natural? Did that look like you had it? No, it's not there anymore.
Very uncharacteristic of him, to say the least.
Right. And it looks like Mr. ThorZaIN going after gas, whereas theognis is actually going to bypass that in favor of looks like a gasless fast expand.
Interesting. So theognis going for a very quick CC here. We'll have to see whether he drops in on the high ground or the low ground. If he drops it on the low ground, it might be a little bit risky, depending on what ThorZaIN decides to open up with here. I mean, he does have a lot of different options.
And, ThorZaIN certainly does. And we've actually seen in his TVTs recently, he's not afraid to match his opponent for, almost like a TVP Protoss 1-1-1, going after the Banshees for DPS, using them with tanks to set up and contain. We saw that the other day in Team Arena Challenge, as a matter of fact.
Yes, indeed. All right, and it looks like ThorZaIN is actually just hunkering down here. He is walling off at the front, has his second depot already up. theognis dropping his CC before second depot, so getting the fastest possible command center and leaving that scouting route available. And it looks like that SCV will get in there before the depot goes up, and that is one of the problems you run into with dropping that second depot after the CC. ThorZaIN's going to be able to get a full scout here. He finds the command center. He knows exactly what theognis is up to.
Yeah.
And he's not going to get that SCV out, but he knows what he needs to know now. And
that was well worth the resources for that SCV. So, back on ThorZaIN's side, looks like he wants to start punishing right away. Sport Terran indeed. Here come a couple of Marines out. Is he bringing any SCVs with this? No, it's just Marines for the time being, but still being pretty aggressive with that. He already does have a factory up with quite a bit of gas saved. He did not go into second gas right away, though, so it doesn't look like it's going to be cloaked.
Ooh, and he's going to get this first Marine, which is actually a pretty big deal. Oh, gets away with 1 shot, 2 shots left. Yeah. And that Marine is going to have to hightail it out of there. And this will allow ThorZaIN to actually kind of posture up here at the natural. He might actually get that Marine.
It's so
He might be able to get it on the ramp.
And it looks like ThorZaIN decides he doesn't want to press it. theognis already had his Marines up there, so no big deal. We do have a significant tech advantage, like we said, though, for ThorZaIN. And look at that. There's the reactor on the barracks. That's obviously not going to be swapped onto these structures here. No second gas quite yet, though, so maybe... No, okay, so this is going to be... Banshee Marine?
He's going to get a very quick Banshee, for sure.
I thought at first it was going to be some sort of Hellion drop or something like that, but he does decide to throw down the tech lab.
A lot of players have been favoring this quick Banshee without cloak style. I mean, you force your opponent to make preparations for Banshees. He doesn't necessarily know whether or not you're going to get cloak.
Right.
He may drop an engineering bay. He may drop extra turrets. He may even burn a scan to figure out exactly what you're up to if he doesn't know. So it gives you multiple options, and here we have the first Banshee on the way for ThorZaIN. No cloak just yet. He does have the second gas going up, so he does have the option of cloak a little bit later on. And theognis gets a scout on that command center that has been dropped on the low ground.
Saw the timing of it as well, so he's got complete knowledge of what his opponent, or when his opponent expansion is coming up. And look, he wants to convince his opponent that he's actually researching cloak. If he actually scans, he's researching Caduceus Reactor right now. This is something we saw a bunch of Slayers Terrans using a few months ago, and he will cancel that if the scan goes down, but it will get his opponent to overcommit to turrets and detection if it's found out.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. ThorZaIN just on top of things right now. He is looking so solid. His build order is just so clean. And now he has the reactor on the racks. He's going to be able to get his marine count up substantially. He's already caught up to theognis, I believe.
theognis
in terms of marines.
has his reactor down as well. Looks like both players are about even at the moment. And ThorZaIN showed he had incredible control in the last set, and in this one he's picking off a couple of marines, just playing with that cliff line there so intelligently.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't have cloak, so doesn't want to overcommit with his Banshee and just trying to pick off as many marines as he possibly can. Here comes a Viking, though. ThorZaIN needs to get out of there immediately.
Yeah, he does.
He might have gotten the jump there. There is a chance he could get away here. Yeah, he probably is going to get away.
Yep, and, looks like he will. You know, theognis, though, he's got against what the straight line army is out of ThorZaIN at the moment. Now there's tanks going in there, but with the amount of Blue Flame Hellions and Marines that he has already out there, he could actually do quite a bit of damage if they were able to fight straight up at the moment. Of course, once that tank number starts to grow for ThorZaIN, though, it's an entirely different story.
Yeah, and ThorZaIN's actually pushing out right now with a small contingent of Marines and a single tank. Does he have siege mode yet? I don't know.
I don't believe so.
I don't think he does.
No.
ThorZaIN does this a lot, actually. He pushes out with tanks that don't have siege quite often.
I honestly think he forgot it in a game in the last set.
Oh, I always think he does, too.
Late,
I always think he does, too.
Yeah.
But you never know. He does it so often that at some point you got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Blue Flame drop coming in for
and he
theognis.
Just moved out with everything. This could be a disaster for ThorZaIN here. He is pushing in the front door, though, and those Marines are going to be forced to pull back, and theognis doesn't really have an answer for this push. He does have those Blue Flame Hellions, but those are not going to fight off the push. ThorZaIN able to save a majority of his SCVs, and he does have a tank, which will shut down those Hellions no matter what. At some point, the Hellions could do quite a bit of damage before they ultimately die. They're going to get dropped off at the natural now, but ThorZaIN all over it, moving his SCVs in perfect order.
Yeah, he really
hardly
is.
lost any.
And it looks like he's not going to get the orbital command, and now theognis actually running down the ramp, picks off the tank, and with the Blue Flame Hellions, as long as they get into the fight, they were sitting back, and theognis took a few more losses there than he normally would have, but I've got to say, he dealt with that pretty well. He did lose a command center. Whatever happened to his drop, it's actually still alive.
Oh, dear.
How many workers have been killed? Theognis has killed 5, and looks like that is finally going to be shut down, though. So ThorZaIN does have the tech advantage. He's already moved into tanks. And do his tanks now finally have siege mode? No, still not yet. So theognis could actually catch up in that regard.
He has to have forgotten it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way. He's building another tank right now, so he's going to go up to 3 tanks, and I don't see any purpose in building a ton of tanks and keeping them in pung-pung mode, that's for sure.
Right.
I mean, they're still effective against certain units, other tanks. Oh, wow, and theognis actually harassing 2 points at once right now, doing some pretty significant damage, but I think ThorZaIN got the better of that earlier exchange where he forced the liftoff and also killed a bunch of SCVs.
theognis is, look how many SCVs are low on health right now, but 15 have only 15 have been killed. You know what I'm saying? For the losses that he's suffered, he does have a big supply advantage right now, though. ThorZaIN is a little bit struggling to come back. Let's see, still no siege mode, hasn't been started. theognis actually does have siege mode on the way. He has only 1 tank on the ground, actually, at the moment. The second just about to finish up, and he has a Raven along for the ride as well.
Interesting.
And a Banshee.
Very
Which is
interesting.
Good, because there's not
Vikings.
a lot of anti-air here for ThorZaIN at all.
No, there really isn't. And he's not utilizing the reactor on the starport right now. He needs to produce some units. Stim is done, thankfully. And he might be able to get that Banshee. Yes, he will.
Oh, no. Only killed 2 killed 2 Marines there. There are quite a few Hellions that could run up the front once again and roast a lot of units. ThorZaIN has to get back in a hurry, or theognis is going to kill a lot of SCVs.
Oh, God. What is he doing? theognis isn't targeting the SCVs. I think he's shooting at Marines that were in the mineral line.
Yeah.
So, ThorZaIN doing a great job microing his SCVs, picks a ton up in the medevac. They actually don't get taken out by the Blue Flame Hellions. That was amazing from ThorZaIN right there. I haven't ever seen anything quite like that. He did lose a ton of SCVs,
yes,
to be fair, but he could have lost his entire mineral line.
He could have lost another 10 to 15 right there.
Absolutely.
That second. So, theognis, he does have another command center finish. Looks like ThorZaIN has done the same thing.
theognis, just to be clear, is so far ahead right now.
Yes,
the supplies are 105 to 87. theognis has his 3rd orbital finishing. It's actually done, and he has the advantage in army, and he's killed so many SCVs. This is going to be a very difficult position for ThorZaIN to work back from. He's in a lot of trouble here.
And still, just in punk mode at the moment, just no siege mode at
There, he just
all.
realized.
Yeah,
now is when he would
tried
siege
to siege up. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
he did legitimately forget it there for a little while. Yeah,
that's what I thought. I mean, generally, you want, right when you're getting around 2 tanks, you definitely want to have siege mode.
It's one of those things, too, if you've done something so many times in a row, a build, for example, and let's say that these dropped at exactly the moment when he normally would have put up siege, you don't think about forgetting it necessarily.
Yeah.
You just go back to operating the way the build should have gone.
And now that ThorZaIN doesn't have siege mode, he's going to be in trouble here. He needs to really pick and choose his engagements, and this is really hurting him right now. Siege mode would just be reaping benefits for ThorZaIN. He could actually kill all of theognis' units on the ground aside from those tanks that are way in the back. And it looks like ThorZaIN is just going to try and hold out here until siege mode finishes. We have about 10 more seconds. As long as he can hold on to this Xel'Naga, he should be just fine.
Oh, man.
It's going to finish so soon. Theognis doesn't know.
He could push and he could obliterate that army.
Absolutely.
But now siege mode is done. But he is going to lose air control. Theognis clearly has that.
But he's got the Xel'Naga, which changes everything in this situation.
Now, let's see here. Is this a PF? No. Orbital commands for both players at the moment. We are moving into long macro mode now.
This is where ThorZaIN wants the game to go if he's going to make a comeback. Theognis is still way ahead on supply, 143 to 121. So ThorZaIN's on his back foot right now. He's lost air control. He doesn't have the larger army. He's just winning the positioning war right now. He has control over the Xel'Naga. And here we go. Theognis attacking into the tank line, takes some heavy siege fire right there, and decides to back off and live to fight again another day.
All right, so let's take a look. Mr. ThorZaIN is up by just 1 tank at the moment. Do we have any upgrades for either player? No. Okay, which is a little bit surprising considering how much mech is out there for Theognis. Oh no! He's got to watch out though. That 1 tank did quite a bit of damage already. Almost gained ThorZaIN a nice little advantage as he would have been able to position himself a little bit further beyond that Xel'Naga tower. However, complete air control is Theognis' Sorry, I realized as I was getting
every time I say it, I'm like
Theognis.
Now ThorZaIN's not going to be able to get air control back, and I think he might actually just end up. Well, I'm not sure. He either needs to concede air control, or he needs to try and win it back. And right now he's producing 2 Vikings, which will bring him up to 4, I believe. No, 6.
He may have his opportunity here soon, though, as Theognis is expanding, and ThorZaIN is starting to get a little more aggressive, and all these units for Theognis are caught into a tiny little choke point. ThorZaIN actually doing so much damage at the moment. Theognis will finally push a few of those back, but he just neutralized the supply differences once you take the worker count out.
Yeah, he really did. Theognis, trying to make something happen, tried to move and sneak along the top end and push ThorZaIN off the weaker position. ThorZaIN actually committing into the 3rd right now of Theognis. He does have a few tanks and a few bioforces, but it looks like that will get pushed back. ThorZaIN picks off a Viking in the midfield, and Theognis is forced to fall back with those Vikings.
Look at this. ThorZaIN is actually biding his time with his air forces.
Accumulating more Vikings and not showing them. That's the smart thing.
3 at a time, and he is going to have complete air control here soon. Supplies are actually equal for our 2 players. Theognis up by 14 workers and continuing to
See, now, if we look at what ThorZaIN's doing with his Vikings right now, that's so intelligent, because Theognis isn't scanning there. He's scanning at the front where the tanks are, and he doesn't think that ThorZaIN is recouping and rebuilding his air army.
Right.
And eventually, ThorZaIN will be able to overrun him once his Viking count gets high enough.
Oh, ThorZaIN did just lose quite a bit there, though. That was a big win for Theognis, as there's basically no anti-air out now. A ground-based anti-air that's actually out.
So many tanks, though.
Yeah.
I really don't see Theognis being able to push this out.
ThorZaIN is actually conceding mech at the moment, though, and just going into mass infantry. And there we go. ThorZaIN finally does reveal his hand, forces the land from these Vikings from Theognis. Let's take a look at the worker count once again. Theognis is at 88 workers. With this many orbitals, I figured he would have tried to cut a little bit and just and start sacking workers in favor of supply.
Now, at this point, you really kind of need to stop producing siege tanks, because both players have their respective sides on complete lockdown here. I'd say ThorZaIN definitely has the better position in mid right now, though, because he can push his way in, and now both players are going to need to find ways to do damage. They're going to need to find ways to harass one another. ThorZaIN looks to be going down the bio route, so he's probably going to start doing drops, try and hit the 5th and the 4th, and Theognis is going to have to work with those Blue Flame Hellions and try and do some drops of his own, and he has a drop going into the 4th right now, largely undefended and just freshly transferred. All of these SCVs will probably go down.
Boom. There was the shot we were looking for. ThorZaIN has started to push his Air Forces in front just a little bit. And I think, I mean, this goes back to if theognis had known before Siege Mode was up, I think he could have pushed in and just outright won the game right there. But as it stands, ThorZaIN's starting to come back slowly but surely. Do we have any air upgrades? No air upgrades for our two players quite yet.
Interesting that neither player has committed to air upgrades. They make such a big difference in the Viking battle.
Yes,
obviously,
they do.
You know, Vikings have 2 attacks, so they double up on armor.
Precisely.
And just the attack upgrade is very beneficial to them as well. So, kind of surprising, especially if you want to transition into BCs later on in the game. It's really important to get those air upgrades working at this point. You know, right around the 20 to 25 minute mark.
Yeah.
You want to start getting those air upgrades going.
Little did we know, though, that we were going to start the Grand Finals off with a 4-hour-long TVT, and theognis pushes up.
A huge mistake. Huge mistake by theognis.
Oh, God.
He's going to lose everything here. ThorZaIN's going to hardly lose a single tank.
Yeah, that's actually a huge loss for theognis. The bio was just able to kill
supplies,
so much mech.
Kevin.
It's now 70 supply difference, and all I had to say was we were in for a long TVT, and the game ends. That's a curse of the caster.
That is what happens in TVT. One mistake like that, and when you're dealing with siege tank lines, siege tank lines are not forgiving. At all.
Yes.
There's no, oh, whoops, I made a huge mistake. I'm going to pull back.
Exactly,
I mean, it doesn't work like that.
Oh, whoops, he has 25 tanks out there that deal splash damage, and I just lost my entire force.
Yeah.
And looks like that front base does go down. theognis did have an advantage in command centers initially, though, so we can fall. And they're all actually orbital commands, so he can fall back to them for the moment. But once ThorZaIN has more than cut the map in half, he is just sitting pretty.
This has to be so frustrating for theognis. ThorZaIN just working up mid, one siege tank group at a time, taking his sweet time right now. theognis is falling apart. He cannot be happy with this situation. He just lost his pocket third, and ThorZaIN's making moves on his fourth, and like you said, there's no planetary fortresses. They're all orbital commands. These will go down in succession, and ThorZaIN has a full contain on the supply lines right now with that tank group.
All right, so it looks like theognis is moved over to pretty much entirely mech. He does have a fusion core coming up, so he's going to try and come back into the game on the back of BCs, and so many workers going down now. theognis has actually fallen back in overall worker count, but he did have more orbital commands out for the time being. Obviously, that has since been decimated.
I really like the style ThorZaIN is playing here. The biomech composition, and waited for theognis to make a move, and that's really when the bio shines, and there it is. GG. ThorZaIN brings it back from a slight deficit in the early and mid game and wins it out in the long game.
And so Mouse does go up 1-0 in this best of 9 here for the grand finals of IPL Team Arena Challenge.
是上将。